Imagine being a child who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stop the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they mightst feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
Psalm 127:3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. This suggests children are a precious gift of God to be valued and cared for.
In the United States, a child a minute is taken into DHS, CPS, and so on custody. The reality is their picks are already selected, you just don't know it. Being perfect no longer matters. It's what the adopting families are.
Who is it stealing the children, you ask?
From caseworker to the White House, the buck stops at all levels, just not where it is supposed to be. The services your family needs, we the people have paid for to ensure your reunification. Title 4 says, reunify at all costs. United, we stand means nothing to us when it comes to family values. Children are being ripped away from their families. Parents are reverting to addictive behaviors to cover the pain. The trauma caused by child removal is just being recognized, and the results are atrocious. Termination of parental rights is not healthy for anyone, just profitable for the people enforcing the lie.
It's time Washington listens to the cries of our children, the wails of their mothers, and the rage growing in the fathers. These are our children. Keep your damn hands off them. We are coming to act on the behalf of the children God gave us to protect, and you kidnapped.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
Up, everybody? Good evening. Welcome back. Welcome to this Memorial Day special, CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I am your host, CPS Punisher. I hope that everyone has had a safe and CPS free Memorial Day weekend so far. That's first and foremost. And any persons out there that were in um, any persons that are out there, relatives of or related to or whatever, if you've lost your loved ones in any sort of military actions, we want to thank you for the service of your family members, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, uncles, nephews, children, right down the line. Thank you for your services. They paid the ultimate price, and because of them, that's why we're able to do this and do shows like this on YouTube and from the comfort of our homes, because these people put their lives on the line and they paid the ultimate price. So thank you to those soldiers that are no longer with us and come from a long line of history and history's conflicts that protected the rights, which all of us are comfortably demonstrating and using while we sit at the armchair of our outdoor, grilling sets and everything, and have a good time with everybody, having a couple of beers. We lose sight of what this holiday is really about. Actually, it was because of an argument that I had with my mother. She had told me the other day she was convinced that Memorial Day was actually for everybody. And I said it was not. So I looked it up, and actually, Memorial Day started in the 1800s, right after the Civil War, and it was called Decoration Day. And what everybody would do is they would go out and decorate the graves of the Civil War soldiers, because there were so many that had died, from each one of the states, and the amount of numbers that were lost. So people would go out and decorate their graves, because there was a lot of graves that were unmarked and they were just everywhere. So they would go out and do that. So it's carried on. And I think it was Johnson, I think, that became in the 70s that it became actually Memorial Day, and then those began all the traditions. So even though you on Memorial Day, Mom, went and put flowers on your mother's grave, Memorial Day is for those who lost their lives in combat or during service. So again, I want to thank everybody that has any family that has given the ultimate sacrifice for us to be able to do shows like this, and for us to shout out against CPS, so that we can stop the kidnapping. And that's another dirty trick that CPS is pulling, is a lot of military families now are being investigated and having their kids removed from them because they come home from combat and they might have PTSD or some sort of trauma-induced illness that they picked up while they were, in their service time. And CPS is starting to hold that against these people's heads. And can you imagine that we live in a country not only where it's okay to steal our children from us, but it's also okay to steal the people who fought for their freedoms and got these, traumas, situations happening because they fought for us. And CPS is there taking their kids because of their mental incapacity. It's disgusting. That's how rude and crude the CPS system is. And we've got to stick together. We've got to show them strength in numbers, or this is going to continue and continue and continue to get worse and worse. It's just, it amazes me that these people practice the freedoms. They're able to practice freedom of stealing our kids from the people that are defending their freedoms. It just blows my mind that we're this backwards in this country. Anyway, that all being said, thank you again. We have our chat right here, as always. Please, I'll get it right back here behind my head. I don't know, right over here somewhere. There it is, right there. There's the chat right there. Go ahead and leave your comments and your whatever questions that you might have. Anything that you guys got that you need us to answer, please do so. Type it up there. Also, like, subscribe, share, this, that, the other, whatever you guys can do to put the word out there about our show, we would greatly appreciate it. As some of you may not know, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do first. But tonight is, it's got the nickname Josee Monday. So, with no more further ado, let's bring out our co-host, Melissa. Josee, how are we doing tonight?
I'm good. Happy Memorial Day.
Oh, thank you. Do you guys have Memorial Day?
No, we had the weekend last weekend, but it was the Queen's birthday.
Oh, all right. So you guys don't do anything to celebrate? Or is that the same holiday to celebrate lost soldiers?
No, that's Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
Wow. When is Remembrance Day?
November 11th at 11 o'clock. Yeah. I think you guys have it too, no?
No. That's called Election Day for us, I believe. Or an Election Eve. Elections when? 11th or 12th?
First you gotta vote to pay attention.
Why am I the only one on this show that votes too?
Well, I vote, but it changes every year, every 4 years for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the way I figure it is the Electoral College is going to pick whoever they want to pick. It ain't going to make a difference who I vote for. And now, with the fact that Biden's brought in several million extra immigrants and gave them all voters' registrations, this should just be an interesting election.
They just did the same thing. They literally, I saw a TikTok today, and it was exactly on that. Now in Canada, all the immigrants that came in will now have the right to vote.
Well, so that's kind of the interesting thing here is if a immigrant who is not legally because all these immigrants are letting in, they're not deeming them legal immigrants.
Right,
they're just immigrants on U.S. soil. So there is laws that deems it a felony if they vote, and it's a they can ship them home if they do.
Right. Well,
on the other hand,
they're not immigrants; they're refugees. They're calling them refugees with no papers. Are now going to be allowed to vote, and
see, they're still not allowed to vote. It's a deportable felony here.
But here in Canada, they're saying that the Canada are saying we are giving them the right. They're going to have the same rights as a Canadian does. So they're going to have the right to vote. They're going to have the right to this and that, the same rights as us.
Well, don't get me wrong. In the U.S., they give them more money than they give us.
Yeah, 100 here too.
They get $2,300, I believe, here. Where we on Social Security would only get 1,000, maybe 1,400. They get 2,300 off the rip. It's kind of like a TikTok I seen that talked about a retirement plan. It says, renounce citizenship to the U.S. Go to another country, then sneak across the border. Guaranteed retirement.
You know, and what's crazy about all of this refugee stuff, Melissa, and I don't know if you know this, Josee, but so the questions that Melissa and I had been looking up for her own case in particular were all answered under the ICE guidelines for them when they take their children. Like if they take their children, if they take a refugee or what are they called? Well, they were immigrants, now they're refugees. If they take a refugee's child, if they can't get a hold of someone that's in that child's
next of kin,
in the family alone, they have 6 months to return them, or they have 6 months to adjudicate or do whatever they're going to do, or they have to be returned to the family. So if they just take these children right from the border, you know, when they're coming across because they say this, that, or the other, they have 6 months, and after that 6 month period, bang, right back to the family. I don't know exactly the details on that, like if they're deported back and the family is, or I don't know any of that. But what we do know as a fact is that they do return the the children to the families if nothing's
Well,
happened.
that's what they say they do, but in 6 months, the baby is probably long gone and shipped somewhere else.
Oh man, that's just awful. Just freaking awful.
Well, again, that falls under what I've said many a times about Tara Rodas, who was a federal whistleblower against the Department of Health and Human Services on a national level, because there's currently real close to 100,000 missing immigrant children that have been trafficked here within the U.S.
Oh yeah, I'm sure more than that. Or is that a stat for like just this year?
That's the current standing during the Biden administration. They're just under 100,000 missing, and they're being literally kind of like what Josee said on that link, like where they're piling kids in hotels. While out in New York, Chicago, and all these other areas, they're using apartment buildings. And there's all these unaccompanied children that are left there to fend for themselves that are being labor and sex trafficked.
Wow. Jesus almighty. So that's, we were talking about it off the air, but we were talking about how CPS is going after, like the middle class, lower class, families. And, Jesus, sorry, I got to step off. I got to blow my nose. I'm like, sorry. My nose is leaking. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. Melissa, can you take this for a second?
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyways, as he was saying, we were discussing the theory and strategies of the fact that the department specifically aims for families who have enough money to feed themselves, but not enough money to fight.
Right.
Because a court-appointed attorney ain't going to put up an argument like they need to. And you can't afford a retained attorney, because once you start getting into that, dude, they already know that you're seeking, help, that they could charge you anything and you're going to pay it. It's your kid. How do you put a value on your kid? And the problem is his families really just don't have enough to pay it. And our families, our countries are being stripped of their biological children solely due to the fact that they can't retain an attorney. They can't have a fair argument because the greed from the Bar Association far exceeds the crimes that we're being accused of.
It's ridiculous, the fact that how come they have in their policies the children are returned after 6 months if they fall out of suit of what their procedure and their the way things are supposed to go. They have a remedy. They say, whoops, we messed up, give us the kids back. Like this has just gone out of control, like a reset button. So why is it that they can do that for immigration, but in cases like Melissa's, where her kids have sat for 2 years really in purgatory, they should have been home long ago, one way or the other, but because she's sitting in this CPS purgatory, there's nothing on them to rule that we couldn't. I mean, we found some things, but we couldn't find everything. And how many people are sitting out there right now where they haven't had any sort of judgments made? They haven't had any services, not services requested, but services required by the courts, or they haven't fulfilled any of these. Like there's so many people that have timed out. I bet you that you could find that would say, wow, they've timed out, they need this, because the other part of this is Title IV funding requires these steps in this process. So for them to get their judgments and to get this money, they too also have time restraints that they need to follow. And if they're not doing that, why are the kids not home?
Right.
But if you go to the ICE version of what goes on, after 6 months, that's it. After 6 months, kids go home. So Melissa and I also looked into, why couldn't we use the rules from ICE? It's a DHHS rule, right? So why couldn't we use those rules on ours? And I guess you just can't. For whatever, we never really got a straightforward answer why. It was more or less we were just told you can't.
Well, the thing that I find that's kind of real shitty about the laws in the U.S. is, within our Constitution, it says that we need to uphold the treaties of other countries, cities, states, and other things as if it is the equivocal of our Constitution. But you ask to uphold the rules of our own federal organizations that say these things. And they're like, oh, no, sorry, that one's not in the normal playbook, therefore that ain't usable.
Right. I mean,
that's just kind of shitty.
Is it not true that the statutes and those things are used, statutes and codes and all of that are used for them to keep the government in line, right? So like those statutes and codes that they're going by are supposed to be so that we the people, or in Josee's case, I don't know if they do the same or similar things, but that's so that we can limit the power of government, right? Like that's what
yeah, but the problem is that every level of government is so corrupt at this point that they're not even held to accountable for what they're doing. So like it's like the whole government structure has gotten out of hand. Like it's corrupt to the core. People are greedy, people are like nobody has empathy. Everything's gone to shit in all levels. Like the link I sent you about the children sleeping in motels and Airbnbs. Like holy crap! At the end of that article, it says that they've increased funding by approximately $14 million for child protection services, in addition to last year's $76.3 million increase. Like, how much are they giving to Ontario?
How much was that? Say that again.
They said that we have increased funding this year by approximately $14 million. And then it says, in addition to last year's $76.3 million increase.
Wow. Jesus. And what are they gearing up for?
I don't know. And this is just Ontario.
Do you hear any more? Are you still active at the military, Josee, at all?
No.
Like, do you still hear any, like, do you get any inside stuff from your friends?
Oh, I still have friends in and stuff, yes.
Are you hearing up there that they're attacking the military as well? The DPG? No, they're not.
Like, you mean for like CPS trying to take military kids away?
Correct. Yes.
Well, I mean there's some, but it's not like I don't know how frequent, but I know that like we get attacked too, right? I mean, yes, but I don't know, but like that would be hush hush. Nobody would talk about it, right? Like when I was in, it was like, don't talk about it. So
wow.
I don't know how frequent it happens for sure, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
But yours, like your case up there, yours was a lot about vaccinations too, right? Like you were dead halted on the.
Mine was really because we're unvaccinated and I sued them. So that would I'm anti-government, right? Like they're trying to paint a picture of me, which is not the actual truth, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you see any of that going on up there though in Canada? Did you see them coming in for the families when you were in the service at all, or was that not? Because I know you did what, 13 or 14 years?
13 years, yeah. I mean, no, it wasn't like, no. I only found it now that I'm out and I'm openly talking about it. But while I was in, it wasn't something we've ever talked about it.
Right.
So speaking of talking about things, why don't you explain to us a little bit about your guests that you're bringing?
Okay, so Envy is a girl that we became TikTok friends. I met her on TikTok. and we met on TikTok because of the convoy that happened in Canada and in Ottawa, and then we became TikTok friends, and we started chatting, and she knows my story, and she's from Ontario, so a different province than me, and everybody knows CPS, so I asked her if she would come and maybe talk about the article that she's the one that sent me the article today. So I was like, oh, maybe she'd like to talk about the article on the show, and
All right.
talk
Well,
about how.
let's bring her in and let's meet Envy and see what she's got going on.
All right.
Good
Hey,
evening
Envy.
or night.
Hi.
Hey.
Considering, right?
So
Had to
tell
turn
us
my
a little
ears
bit
up.
about you.
Ontario, Josie's friend. Been
Yeah.
dealing for CPS for a long time now. CAS. It seems to have a different name depending on where you are.
It's the same here too.
Well,
Depending on which
CAS
state,
is.
it changes initials. Typically a 3 initial. Some states is 4 initials, but it's kind of like the 3 letter of mafia.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. Yeah, because I think some people call it CAS here, some is CPS, FNCS,
DPG.
DPG. Yeah, that's a whole different monster. I feel it's a whole different monster.
What is your Envy? What is yours? What is your? I don't know. I can't find it. I was looking for the ICE regulations. I know I have it somewhere, but I can't find it. So Envy, what brings your first run-ins with the DBG up there?
I think mostly mine is their lack of. They haven't
Okay,
been invasive enough in my situation to an absolute fault, So
okay.
kind of the opposite of what Josie experienced, where they should have involved, but they continue to allow children to reside in a toxic environment,
Right.
for lack there. Right.
Well, Envy, they do a lot of that here too, where
Oh yeah.
they'll know and they'll even confirm that children are being raped, beaten, starved. But because they
Hmm.
consider the child a damaged good, they just will not intervene. And it takes a
Mm.
child dying before someone notices.
If that even is something that's noticeable, and if it goes the right direction that it should,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, and speaking of court
like,
corruption, we also have Sabrina here too.
oh, Serena's in here
Um,
too.
you
Okay.
you ladies will find Sabrina and her judge very appalling.
Yes, their
Mm.
story is really something. Um, is this the yeah? Her story's out of this world. I can't even believe that it's the
Hey,
degree
Sabrina,
of.
how are you?
Josie, it's
Can't
this
hear
one.
you.
Is it this story?
No.
Is it this the one you put in the private chat, Jose?
I can't hear her.
Is her mic off? Oh.
No.
I think she's gonna try to log off and re-log in. Still can't hear you, Sabrina. You might check your settings and make sure you give audio permission. Anyways, as you were saying, Envy,
So Sabrina.
your lack of.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, ours is lack of. Our grandson was with a
Is it?
toxic
Is Josie?
mother for years.
Okay. Does
You know,
Josie? Does this story go with the? Does Envy's story go with that article? The video that you put in this private chat?
Yeah, she's the one that sent me the article. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna pull that video up real quick here, and we can play that real quick. I'm stuck here in somewhere. I am somewhere and not seeing anything.
Josee, I feel like finding out where all that
What's
money
going
went
on?
and what they're getting paid monthly per child.
I know, eh? But like, can you believe it said 76.3 million increase? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what kind of... Wow.
And then it says the ministry is also is also providing 13.5 million over the
Man.
next 3 years.
For what?
Okay.
Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, shift. I don't know where I am here. I'm going out. I'm locked up. Melissa, I'm locked up. I'm gonna have to come right back in. It's crazy. It's
Darren,
absolutely crazy.
something to be said about too much technology. Just saying.
Yeah, too much something. It's too much something. Like I can hear you, but I can't see you. And
All
yeah,
right,
my
Darren, do a
opening
restart.
screens like it doesn't make sense. Where back in two sheets of the lamb's tail on this one I'm doing.
Technical difficulties,
If I can
eh?
get to it.
Yeah, ain't that the understatement? But
Yeah.
anyway, so the child was having a abusive parent, and you guys have tried to use the department to intervene for the child's safety, and they've told you to sit and spin, putting it nicely.
Yeah, and they had been involved with her. Well, let's see, her child's 14, this little guy's 10. So they had been involved with her basically since 2009, consistently. Home visits, but you know, it's easy for... they're not trained in anything, I don't believe. They're trained to go in, they see a lovely home, well kept, you know, you could eat off of her floors, and they would consider our calls of concern nonsense. We have no concerns because her house looks lovely and she dresses pretty. They never had any concerns, no matter what we brought to their attention. And then eventually, almost 2 years ago, she got fed up and she just dropped the little guy off on my parents' front porch and walked away.
Yeah, and it's so here in the United States, when they do a investigation, they have to issue a summary report, and then a letter comes from that report that deems whether you were indicated of harm and not indicated of harm. So,
Mm-hmm.
in my case in particular, my daughter was being housed, and my daughter's two. She was being housed at a foster home that we thought, to the best of our ability, was a decent foster home. Well, we started getting a bunch of text messages from strangers talking about sexual abuse of children in the home by the foster mother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, my daughter was slow to speak and everything, and I didn't really think much of it because most of my kids, they'll run and jump off the back of the couch a year before, they start saying, I love you or anything else. So I didn't really think much into it. But because I was getting all those messages as a parent, I just forwarded the messages straight to the department. They said, what's your input? I said, I don't have input other than if there's something there, investigate, because I don't want my child in a home with an abuser if there's abuse going on in the home. Well, they removed my child from that home, and within a month, within 30 days of being removed, she is happy. She sings. She speaks full sentences. And now she's completely potty trained.
That's
All
so
within
nice.
a month just by changing the environment.
Yeah, see, it's funny you should say that because my best friend's in Chicago, and she had a run-in with CPS or whatever you call it out there. And she literally, from her daughter saying different things to her, hired a private investigator or whatever it was to go dig on the household members where her daughter was placed. And there was a known, I don't know if he was SA or if it was just drugs, but it was a criminal residing in the home, helping raise her daughter. And I think she brought it into court, whatever, and the child did get changed from that home. But it took her to hire someone to go look into this. Like, these people should be vetted long before.
All right. Let's see if we have Sabrina this time.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we have audio. We have liftoff.
All right. Sorry, I could not figure it out for the life of me. I think I got it now. How's everybody?
So, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
You're alive, right?
Yeah.
You're breathing
really,
air?
Surviving is it. Because
So, on with us tonight, Sabrina, we have Josee, because we call this Josee Monday. She's from Canada. She's our local Canadian troublemaker.
Hello.
And she has brought her guest, Envy, who is actually suffering from the opposite of what we're dealing with. They tried to use the system for what it was really intended for, and that's to protect and save the children. You being in the medical field, I mean, I'm sure you see it all the time where children that should be removed get ignored, and children that there's absolutely nothing wrong get taken left and right.
Yeah, all the time.
Because I know you being in a mandated reporting type position, you've seen the worst of the worst and the best of the best, and somehow who they pick and choose is a little opposite.
Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am. I even worked in pediatrics for a while, and I've seen a lot of situations that were questionable.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, would you agree that the department doesn't want to take damaged goods?
Yes, I agree completely. And I know, like, everybody that I've spoken to about that topic, everybody has the same opinion that I've spoken to. It really seems that way, because and then you hear about these kids that have died by the hands of either foster parents or their biological parents, and it's so sad because it could have been handled differently. You ask yourself, why am I in this situation when that could have been prevented, and then there's a child that's dead for no reason. It could have been
right,
prevented.
and they're screwing with your family, not because of harm, but just because of kind of a bullshit allegation that really shouldn't be pursued. Just like in my case, they openly say there's no allegations in my case, but they're still not rushing to say, here's your kid back.
Mm-hmm.
That just floors me. I don't understand that at all.
Me too.
Oh, wait a minute. It gets better than that, because the foster parent, because they don't have my kid no more, the foster parent has filed for GPR against me.
Really?
What's GPR?
Termination of parental rights.
Okay.
Oh. I didn't know they could do that.
Well, in the state of Alabama, they can.
I knew they could pursue, like, adoption, but I guess in order to do that, they would have to. I just thought it was.
Well,
the.
So it started with a motion to intervene. Right. It started with a motion to intervene. Now, there is case law that says if they are in possession of the child, if they get to attend the ISPs and the other things, then their opinion is relevant in court. Therefore, they have the right to file a motion to intervene. But this is the family that has, quote, molested children. They don't have possession of my daughter. They're not allowed to attend my ISP meetings, but they were granted the right to intervene.
What's ISP again?
Team meetings, the family team meetings,
Gotcha. So
the service plan meetings.
shouldn't it be considered hearsay also? Like if they're pursuing TPR and they have like certain claims, can that be considered hearsay?
That's just it. There's no claims. There is no claim against me that warrants a TPR. I mean, hell, they haven't even adjudicated my kid's dependent yet. They've had him for 2 years in limbo because, and this is getting to the topic of your issue, Sabrina, a corrupt judge who 2 years ago put out an order refusing to hold court. We wouldn't know anything about corrupt judges, would we, Sabrina?
Not at all. No, not at all. Did you happen to read the second part of my?
Yes, I did, and I ran it through the algorithm, and I've got almost a completed draft for you to review.
So I think everybody that experiences a corrupt judge should 100% pursue the complaint to the Judicial Conduct Board, because it seems like we can't. Our hands are tied. We don't have a lot of power to do anything. But that is one thing that we can do, and it might not make a big difference. It might not make a difference at all. Who knows? But it could change the entire case. Like if he's found guilty of misconduct, the case can be dismissed completely.
Absolutely. Well, and yours is right. Pushing sexual harassment.
Yeah, and that's another thing. So when I went to the district attorney about that, he said, when it comes from a judge or a person of law enforcement, it turns into a civil matter, and that means that there's nothing the district attorney can do as far as criminal. But in my opinion,
you'd have to go to your state attorney general, because a district level can't pursue anything against a judge. That would be a state level. So that would go through the state attorney general's office.
Sexual harassment is criminal, though, in my opinion.
It is. That's what the state attorney general's for. Because here's the thing. You can't sue a judge and win, so how would it be civil?
Oh,
it takes an act of multiple gods to get past judicial immunity here in the United States. And in order to sue the judge, you have to show that he's acting in excess of his jurisdiction. Otherwise, it falls under the doctrine of absolute immunity.
Right, and their discretion. They can use their discretion however they want.
So would you like to tell our ladies?
What was that?
Oh, I said who then would hear the case? What judge is going to want to try another judge?
Well, they hand the case off to another judge, no big deal around here. The judge from the next district over, the next courtroom over.
Yeah, but I did a review on the I did a complaint on the judge. Okay? And you know what's going to happen after. Now the judge is pissed off and doesn't want you to be inside of the case, right? So it can come back and bite you in the ass. So then who's going to want to hear you when you just made a complaint against his friend, the other judge?
Yeah,
well,
and they
all
go golfing together, and
exactly.
They all sit at the dinner table together, and they're not going to want to.
But in the same,
they're all fucking the lawyer, the DPG lawyer, anyway. So I mean,
well, but see here in the same, if the Bar Association for Judicial Review deems that a claim is grand enough that it makes it past stage 1, which Sabrina's has. They immediately notify the judge that he is being pursued, and it could essentially revoke his license. And any judge that steps in his place he may be pissed, but he's also going to understand that he's messing with someone that knows their rights, and that if he wants to try something that's stupid, that the same thing would occur. Sabrina, why don't you tell our fine ladies what your judge has done in his conduct?
Well, okay, so I'd like to go back to what she said in a minute, though, because that is important. How it can retaliate, how it can backfire on you. So what happened with my case was, okay, so let me just say, the allegations in my case stem from addiction, and I feel like this is going to be brought up a lot more in the coming years because of the opioid crisis and all the addiction on the rise. Just because you're an addict doesn't necessarily make you a bad parent. And
in most states, it's not even grounds for removal. It's grounds for treatment and intervention, but it is not grounds for removal.
Yeah, normally they need to have a second, like another reason to actually, like a danger to the children, a threat of harm, to remove, but not in Pennsylvania, apparently. So they removed my children because of my addiction. And 1 second. Oh, the washer's going crazy. My ex and I went through treatment, got everything under control, did all the requirements of the family service plan. And it wasn't long before the judge started making just really bogus rulings. He took away the opportunity for my family to supervise visitation. He wanted it strictly done by a professional agency, which really limited our visitation then completely with the kids. We couldn't have phone calls with them. I wasn't allowed to talk to the foster family, even though my kids were moved 4 different times. No fault of mine. And this all stemmed from a conversation via text between my sister and I, which wasn't good. I was kind of ignorant to her, and there was some inappropriate communication between her and I. But he let that affect every single aspect of my case after that, pretty much. He punished me for that over and over again. So then visitation was limited, phone calls were limited. I couldn't go to school functions because of the no contact order. I couldn't go to any extracurricular activities, nothing. So then he started to say, we would get something complete, and then he would keep adding to the list like they normally do. And it got to the point where he wanted me to do a hair follicle test. And my ex, he asked me if I dyed my hair, and I said sometimes. And because of that, he said, well, we're going to order a toenail test on you then, which happens to be a surgical procedure with and general anesthesia and everything, which I later found out I was the only person he's ever ordered this test on. First and only. So then, in the meantime, my attorney went and asked him when the court hearing was wrapping up, she asked the judge, can you just order the hair test on her and order hair from a different part of her body, such as her arm or her leg? And that's when it happened. All the demeaning comments up until then, I could let that be. But this is when he crossed the line. He asked me about whether or not I shaved my pubic hair in front of several different people in the courtroom. And I was trying to crawl. I wished I could crawl under a rock. I was trying to get out of that room as quick as I could. And then he announced very loudly, well, okay, we're going to order the toenail test for Mom. She's well groomed down there. It's so loud and embarrassing. And that's when I filed the judicial complaint. Because I felt like he embarrassed me to the point where it just crossed the line with me. So then he started After that, he refused to recuse himself, knowing that I filed a complaint. It was a conflict of interest, obviously, and I had asked him. He said, well, I'm going to deny your verbal request for recuse. And then he asked me 2 times after that to take my shoes and socks off in the middle of the courtroom so he could get a picture of my feet or my toenails, which was totally humiliating. And he compared it to, well, if you wear sandals in the summertime, what's the difference?
That just sounds like he has a foot fetish.
It's different. It's different. Yeah, and then the one time somebody said, well, you should have charged him for those pictures because you can sell pictures of your feet on the internet for hundreds of dollars. But so he got those pictures. And in the end, he TPR'd. The TPR he granted it, and he had my kids come in. I don't know how to explain this. So you know how in the dependency bench book, I don't know if you've ever read through one of those. They encourage the children are supposed to be at the hearing because they stand as a reminder as to why we're there, whose well-being we're serving. You know, they're encouraged to be there, not during the sensitive parts, but they're supposed to at least make an appearance. They encourage that actually in the dependency bench book for Pennsylvania. Well, my children were never at any of the hearings. And I also know that they're supposed to ask the children what their preferences are, and people are supposed to advocate for them. Well, at all my visits leading up to the TPR hearing, I was asking my daughter, has anybody talked to you about where you want to live? And nobody. She kept saying, no, nobody asked me. So the TPR hearing came around, and I opted. He said, we're not going to have the children here. Does anybody object to that? And I raised my hand. The only person who did. And he said, okay, where are the kids at now? School. Go get them and bring them here. So the foster family went and got him, brought him to the hearing. He questioned them without me or my attorney present.
They actually do. They pull the children into the back room and speak to the children one-on-one.
Yes.
Typically.
And there was attorneys present, but he wouldn't allow my attorney to go in, which was kind of strange to me. But he then accused me of coaching my daughter what to say. He said he basically told them that they're not coming home, and then he ordered them to go right back to school. And that really broke my heart because I know how upset they must have been. And to do that and then make them go right back to school, just, I don't know, I felt like that was really harsh. And then he also made a ruling. He said that the bond between my children and I was toxic, and the bond between them and the foster family was much stronger than mine. He had never even seen me around my kids, so I don't know how he made that connection, but
dollar signs.
He said some really, really ignorant, nasty things at the end of that TPR hearing, and none of which I felt like he was even qualified to say. You know,
how old are your kids?
8 and 6. My daughter's 8. She's the oldest. She has a pretty good understanding, better than the 6-year-old, I think. But
and how long have they been taken?
2 years in June.
Wow.
This whole thing, I just feel like even the agency said they wanted to move forward with partially unsupervised visits. 3 or 4 different times they made that recommendation, the agency that supervised my visits, and the CYS caseworker. The judge completely went against their recommendations every time.
You're still under appeal right now, right?
Yeah, so we appealed the change of goals, which was months and months back, and we appealed the TPR. But
So
I
now,
haven't
so now, when do you see them? Now, do you still have unsupervised visits or no?
I never got unsupervised visits.
So now you still have supervised visits with your kids, or not even?
Not at all. Not since the TPR hearing. Haven't had one.
Once there's a TPR, they typically you never see your kid again. If anything, you'll get a goodbye visit.
Termination of rights. Okay.
Yeah,
So they did that already. In 2 years.
In Canada, it's like a ward of the crown. It's like automatic terminate. They terminate your parental rights, TPR, so you don't see them again.
So they did that in 2 years already. Done.
But never given
Actually, they're supposed to do it within 15 months. If your child is dependent 12 of the last 22 months, it is grounds for a goal change and a permanency change for TPR, and then they allow an additional 3 months for the TPR trial.
But that's only if you're not progressing on your family service plan.
Right.
If parents aren't making progress and things aren't changing. But that wasn't the case in my in my case. That wasn't it. We made substantial progress. I was employed. There was really no reason for him to keep backsliding, but he did. He kept pulling me further and further away from them, never giving a real reason as to why.
He's just a woman hater.
Yeah,
I think so.
So something you may look into, Sabrina, you might look, I'm not sure what the writ would be called to your state, but in our state, when dealing with the appellate or the Supreme Court, there's a way to go in while your case is still kind of in an appellate limbo and ask for a actual review of the entire case.
Yeah, I think that's not. I asked about that once.
Most attorneys will not do it.
My attorney said it's not for a dependency court. That's what she said.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. There's tons of case law as to how to get the case reviewed. Almost everything they do in criminal court, they do in family court.
I asked for it to be assigned to a different judge. I wrote to the president judge asking and never got a response.
Yeah.
But you're right. Once you make a complaint against another judge, what other judge is going to want to step in and take his place?
Exactly.
But in the same, at what point do you just lay down and die? I mean, that judge was trying to drive you to the point of what? Suicide?
Yeah.
Dangling your kids in front of you like a carrot to get even? Why? You haven't done anything that substantiated that.
It seemed like from the time my sister turned in the text messages between her and I, that from that time on, he just hated me. And even my attorney and my ex's attorney made the comment, okay, well, the judge hates you. We can see that. It's very obvious. It was obvious to other people. He just didn't like me. It was...
Welcome to the club. The judge didn't like me either.
But with Josee, that's why we call you our favorite troublemaker.
You know what? That's exactly what the lawyer said last week when I saw him. He called me a troublemaker. And I'm like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, you're a troublemaker. And I was like, wow.
It's because you're seeking private prosecution against a corrupt department. I mean, that's unheard of. In the U.S., to privately prosecute, we have to civilly sue them, win the civil suit, then the arguments from the civil suit are able to be used in a criminal matter. Kind of like what they was describing to you, Sabrina, On the
Right.
other hand, anything that is grounds for recusal or a judiciary complaint, Sabrina, you can turn it over to the state attorney generals and ask for a criminal investigation.
I did get a letter back from the conduct board. They told me they were going to start an investigation into the judge. But yeah, I haven't contacted the state attorney general, and that's a really good idea.
Yeah, no, I got a friend down here in the state attorney general. She says when I get done with my complaint against the judge and my motion to recuse, she asked me to send her a copy of both because they want to investigate my judge for the equivocal of holding my kids hostage because he has refused to take the bench in 2 years, leaving a newborn and a 2-year-old in limbo for 2 years.
That's crazy. What do you mean he refused to take the bench? What do you mean?
He has not held court in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So when they removed the kids, they did the emergency hearing to do the whole temporary ward thing and to argue that there could be allegations. And they didn't even argue allegations. They said, we're doing it because the psychologist for the older daughter recommends it. Not because of any harm, but just because, well, this is one of their professionals. So he gets paid in an envelope, and he writes whatever they tell him to.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a very, very corrupt psychologist. But anyways, my oldest daughter ran away from the system because she got beat so bad in a nut ward that she had to have brain surgery. And she told me, she says, Mom, they're trying to kill me. Because I won't help them, they're now trying to kill me. She ran away, she went to Michigan. Judge says, I will never hold court again until Sarah, now Sarah's 18, returns back to the state and submits to the custody of DHR. Now, Sarah was also married.
Wow, that's some gray area, I feel like.
Well, the judge has been obsessed with my daughter for a long time. When we held the hearing on the younger two children,
he wants her to get beat, stay in a situation that's toxic.
He doesn't realize she got beat the way she did. Because the department always lied and said, oh, she's doing great. She's doing wonderful.
They're thriving. That's what they always say about my kids. They're thriving.
Yeah,
they were never thriving.
My daughter had to have brain surgery because she was bleeding out her nose and ear for 10 days before they finally agreed to do surgery. I signed all the medical documents with the department for her to get the surgery, and 4 days later, the department went to the judge and said that I refused to sign their paperwork when I had already signed it.
And can you imagine all these stories everywhere?
I know, it's just it, and Josee, I wanted to ask you, like, do you know the rules behind the whole being ward of the crown? Is it a 2-year limit where they can apply for it and potentially get it because the child's been in custody of the state for 2 years?
I don't know exactly the rule, but that's what I heard too, that when it's a kid, they have like 24 months.
Is that a Canada thing, ward of the crown?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when they take guardianship of your child and basically your TPR.
Oh, okay, that's equivalent to our TPR.
Yeah, I'd almost have to say it's probably undisputable, I think, at that point. And that's what worries me about Josee's case, too, is and to boot, for her daughter not to have her daughter, like, for them to be punishing her daughter because of their anger towards grandma. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. But the baby's coming back.
For sure?
Yeah.
What date?
Like next week.
Like 100%. This is on paper. There is no
Well, that's the thing. My daughter goes back, I think, next week to go see them to like finalize, but the foster family and everything officially told Naomi that like next week they're giving their all the stuff back and stuff. So yeah.
What did she do to get the baby back?
Hi, it's
Her
me.
mom didn't shut up.
Huh. Well, it seems like they
Well,
hate that.
and you know what? Actually, ladies, I can say that I have done that same thing here. We have a new director of DHR because honestly, this is a really corrupt district. The workers were testifying in favor of my case, and so they fired all the workers. But anyways, we got a new director, and Josee, you should know this from last week. I've been having meetings with the director. I literally wrote the director an email after the last meeting telling her, look, you have violated reunification standards, you violated visitation standards, you have created so much violation of due process that I could tie this up in court for the next 3 or 4 years, but that doesn't serve the best interest of the children. So let's agree to disagree and work on the best interest. And the new director is actually wanting to push to turn my case around too. And it's just been that I have kept fighting and clawing and arguing and bitching, and I haven't stopped.
You know, I did the same thing too, and it seemed like the more I did, the more people I called, the more mad they got.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know what?
less like they just don't. I called the county, the executive deputy something or other of the county Department of Human Health Services. Had a conversation with him, told him his employees were in the wrong. They were saying lies about me, blah blah blah. And the judge,
Yeah,
and
hell, they get paid extra to say lies about you. Don't.
Yeah, well, he just basically said there's nothing wrong with your case, you know.
Well,
And
what you might look at, Sabrina, if I was you, I would put together what's essentially called an affidavit of fact. So it's a notarized statement of the occurrences of the judge, the things he said, how he treated you, and how he made you feel. Attach a copy of your original complaint and go hand deliver it to your attorney general's office, your state attorney general. I mean, if that's what you have to do.
I don't think it's going to change anything, honestly, because
here's the reason I'm saying this. If they find that the behavior is suspicious, that warrants an investigation, with the fact that he's already under judicial conduct review, it gives her grounds through the appellate court to vacate his order.
But that's the problem. There's nobody that's going to do the investigation on top of CPS.
The state attorney general will. So part of your state attorney general here in the United States actually represents CPS.
I don't think we have that here.
There's been several investigations.
You probably, to each area up there, you probably have a centralized attorney that handles like state level charges, like the big shit.
Well, we have the attorney general.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what our state attorney general is kind of that level.
Where's he, NB? I don't even know who that is.
She's in Ottawa.
What was that affidavit that you said?
Affidavit of fact.
Automatically, Ottawa, DPG, they'll say, nope, it's provincial. So we don't have that. We can't use them.
I'll look into that because I don't know if the attorney general is Canada-wide. I can't remember her name right now. Mary.
There has to be somebody that is above CPS. And
yeah, because see, you have your district attorneys, which work in your local courthouse, and then you'll have a prosecuting person that is to each area, or what do you go by, province?
Province, yeah.
Yeah, province.
Yeah. So Each province will have a province level prosecuting attorney. Those are the attorneys that usually handle the big felonies, corporate crime, you know, discrimination,
Okay.
your constitutional arguments would all be handled by this higher level person.
Never heard of him.
No.
I'll
let
look
me see if
into
I
it,
can.
but I've never heard of it. Like I've never heard of someone. Yeah.
This is going a couple years ago, but I mean, I had reached out to on a provincial level, Doug Ford, and which in turn, they then pushed me to Mrs. Mulroney.
Oh, yeah.
Mulroney's wife or something, which that is, where's that going? That's friends with our wonderful Prime Minister.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
So in Canada, have they never investigated a CPS case before?
They won't. If you would know the amount of people I've called, I wrote, I've talked to, I yelled, I screamed, I begged for an investigation.
What about when children are found dead at the hands of biological parents that CPS was involved with?
They always end up doing an investigation that takes 5 years, and then they say we recommend, and then they never do it.
Who does the investigation? That's what I'm getting.
They make a commission, a brand new commission, just to find out and to put recommendations for CPS. And now that commission now is the girl that did the old commission like 5 years ago that wanted things to be changed is now going on the commission for health and safety now. Like she's been paid and bought, and now she's going up in the world, and now she's part of the Quebec safety, health and safety fucking commission now. She moved up.
So Josee, to answer the question, it is the let's see, so in Quebec it is the Quebec Ministries.
Yeah, but I wrote him 100,000 times, man. The minister, he won't do shit all. I wrote to him, I did to the justice minister, I did them all. They will not you know what he told me, the minister? He goes, we can't investigate our own.
Huh.
Yeah, but misconduct is misconduct.
He won't investigate his own. He's like, we trust the people that we hire, and we think that they're good, so they do it in the state. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Or it'll be like, oh, thank you for writing. We'll be back in touch later, and then you get another. Oh, this is not our department. We forwarded your information to the department necessary. Please wait for a response. And then another email. I've gone from the regional to federal. Nothing.
Yeah, me too. I've done it all from provincial.
That seems to be a common theme.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's been so much corruption in my case because my kid would have came back over a year ago, but the guardian ad litem kept writing. The guardian ad litem kept writing recommendations and motions and all of this stuff.
And did the guardian ad litem ever speak to your children? Because they
nope.
I don't think they saw my kids.
So this is the motion that the guardian ad litem wrote. And just to do a word clarification, she did a motion to quash the subpoena. Now, quash means the same thing as squash.
Dismiss.
So yeah. So she writes, comes now, Hayden, guardian ad litem for the minor children, moves the honorable court to quash the subpoena issued by for the guardian ad litem in support as follows. 1. The matter before the court is subject of a trial de novo, that means trial with no record. The subject children dependency to the parent. A subpoena was issued May 22nd, 2024 for the guardian ad litem to appear at trial on July 9th, 2024, and no information appears as to what the parties request. We don't request nothing. We request her ass be present. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. The undersigned guardian has always served as a role of counsel and has never performed a report alleging facts not presented in open court, and has never given an opinion to this court, and has not been a fact witness in this matter. The guardian ad litem serves as counsel for the minor, distingent from the authority roles such as a witness role. Further, as a fact witness, the guardian ad litem must have a personal knowledge of the subject matter testimony. The guardian ad litem has no personal knowledge of the allegations of dependency, nor was appointed to obtain facts to present to the honorable court relating to the children. Therefore, she has only served as counsel. So, yeah, the guardian ad litem openly admitted she never investigated the allegations. She's supposed to come out here and inspect my house. She's supposed to meet with my children. She's supposed to supervise visits. Instead, she wrote recommendations to the court demanding adoption, saying that I was convicted of multiple felonies across the southern states, which was an absolute lie. I am not convicted of any felonies in the southern states. And then she just said all kinds of things. Told me that I only associate with felons, and that that we bring homeless people around to rape people, and like.
But you could easily prove that wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it was funny that she admitted to her wrongdoings. It was great.
So why do they even bother when they know that you can easily prove that wrong with clear and convincing evidence? They just make up this bogus stuff.
So what I know that they don't know is that we actually have filed in the federal court a lawsuit for conspiracy and a lawsuit for violation of constitutional rights. And the guardian ad litem is a named participant. So is the original director of DHR. And since you can't sue a judge, well, you can sue a judge, but you'll never win. We named him as a participating witness to further disqualify him from sitting on any cases. But yeah, so we're taking it to a federal level. Sucks to be them.
Yeah,
Right.
you almost have to prove your point, and you have to be repetitive and be consistent. Do they have child lawyers, like in any of the states?
It seems
Yeah, well,
like,
that's called a guardian ad litem. It's an attorney that takes the position of representing the best interest of the child. And 9 times out of 10, because they're paid for by the state, all recommendations are always in favor of the state. It's very rare that a guardian will suggest returning home.
but they do in cases where there's abuse happening. They do, and they have.
We had one done as well, and that's what it is. They can only give their recommendation, and it has to be based on facts. So with ours, they did. They went through anybody that would be involved with the child. They went through their medical, criminal record, any kind of history with CAS, whatever, CPS. They went through everything, and she gave her recommendations based on all that information, all those facts that she dug into. So she can't go through all those facts, provide the court that information, and then a judge be like, oh yeah, that family, yeah, sure, I'll take your recommendation, or I'm not going to take your recommendation, when the recommendations are showing parent A is the better parent, and here's why. They don't have criminal records, they don't use drugs, or they're hard workers. And then, family B, well, they're terrible people and they're alcoholics or something. Like they tend to want to go with that recommendation based on the facts that are provided to them. which that helped us so much to have that. However, by the time you go through the court system, that report is months old. So in our case, mom had she had been to rehab and she's been doing tapping therapy and all this other jazz. So she looks like she's improved. So then here continues the game, right? So
Right. Well, we have went substantially over our hour timeline, but with having so many guests, I figured adequate time for everyone to tell their stories. So in kind of getting to wrapping this up, hey Herbert, you got any questions for everyone?
No, I don't have any questions. I've been listening. Hi, Josee. How are you? Hi. I don't have any questions.
Happy Memorial Day.
Yes, same to you. I've been listening to the whole conversation, in and out, and it sounds pretty good. You guys are making some pretty good points.
All right. Well, do you want to start last words?
Yeah, last words is remember that you got to be careful with what you do with your children and yourselves to keep CPS out of your life. And remember that don't let CPS in your home unless they have a warrant to enter. Don't let them sweet talk you.
All right. Well, that's some great advice, Herbert. Josee, last words?
Last words, just continue thinking positive, continue fighting, talk about it, talk to everybody. Like that's what I would say. Just like don't be scared of judgments from others. If you know what you know is true in your heart, you just fucking do it and go and continue doing it.
Absolutely. Envy, last words?
I don't know, stick to the facts and just defend yourself.
Sabrina, last words for any parents out there?
If you think your judge is corrupt, definitely pursue a judicial complaint at the very least. Don't just not do anything and submit to that kind of treatment, because it's not right. And every human being deserves respect at the very least, even in court. The way I was treated is completely inappropriate at every court hearing.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if they have anything like that in Canada, but at least in the states, Judicial Conduct Board.
So, well, and my last words for the night is never quit fighting for your kids. You're supposed to be your kid's hero, and no one's ever going to love your kid like you do. No one's ever going to take care of your kid the way you do. If you love your kid, defend them till the end.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up another night. As you hear the stories of the judicial corruption that has occurred in so many of these cases, and parents that are getting walked on, and in the same departments who are failing to do their job, and that it takes a child dying at the hand of harm before anyone stands up and takes notice. Stand up for what you believe in, stand up for what you want to fight for, and don't ever quit. Words of the wise of an old attorney I used to know. He says, you get up every morning, you grab your sword, you charge. He says, and you always do the best you can. Angels can do no more. And that wraps up another night of CPS, Victims Hunting Justice.